You're listening to 1865, the Nottingham Forest podcast with Rich Ferraro.
Hello and welcome to 1865, the Nottingham Forest podcast. We're recording on Sunday the 15th of March on an afternoon in which Forest, having gone into the relegation zone yesterday, climbed back out, albeit on goal difference, and then just to rub salt in the wounds for what some people might feel as a missed opportunity, Spurs then managed to get a late point at Liverpool, which has happened literally just before we started recording today. I'm joined by Katie from A View from the Clough Stand. Katie, I mean, is today a point gained or is it an opportunity missed?
I think it's an opportunity missed. Fulham, they're a decent side, but we're at home and I back us. So I think, especially after West Ham's mentality to get a point against City, I think we should have been capitalising on that today.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think there is something to be said for that, especially in a home match. But equally, we know that home matches haven't necessarily gone that well for us for most of the rest of the season. Let's start off with the team news. So Forest did have to make some changes compared to the team that started against Midtjylland. We had Matt Sells in goal, a back four this time of Ola Aina at right back and Nico Williams at left back, Milenkovic and Murillo at centre half. Sangare and Anderson were holding the middle of the park with Hudson-Odoi on the right. Dominguez roaming and Gibbs White sort of on the left with Jesus up front. Let's just get the tactical stuff out of the way. It was a bit formationless in the first half, wasn't it? The nearest I could describe it to being was maybe a 4-1-4-1, where I say Dominguez was kind of floating around the midfield, Sangare was holding, and Gibbs White was nominally playing as a left winger. I can't think of a better way to describe it, can you?
No, not really. I wasn't really sure if it was a flat midfield three. But I think that would have been too defensive. And I think starting Dominguez, whether it was a midfield three or he was playing on the wing, I just think Fulham are there for the taking. It's a game that we need to win. It's a game we need to score goals in. Um, and I just think playing Dominguez wasn't necessarily the right thing to do. Maybe playing Hutchinson. But I was also a bit confused with the playing Hudson-Odoi and Gibbs White behind Jesus. I feel like when Taiwo came on, and I'll probably get to it later, but I think he had a real like presence up there, and I think Jesus is more of a 10 for me, and maybe him and Gibbs White would have been better deeper and then start Taiwo. So that was another thing we was thinking about when we saw the team news.
Yeah, no, I mean, we will talk about it a little bit later, but yeah, it's difficult to disagree with that. Now, let's just get something out of the way. The first half was pretty turgid. It was definitely not one for the neutrals. Anyone who was wandering into a pub and found Sky Sports was showing that match will have been asking for them to change the channel pretty sharpish. The first action of note was actually Nico Williams getting a yellow card for a challenge on Harry Wilson. A challenge that he had to make, a foul that was definitely the case, and a yellow card that was well deserved. And I have to say, I worried a little bit being up against a player like Wilson, but actually, I think Nico had the measure of his Welsh teammate for pretty much all of the match, apart from that one moment. In terms of chances, well, Anderson had a run through after a knockdown from Jesus. I say with this kind of weird formationless midfield, we found that Callum Hudson-Odoi was like really sticking to the right wing, and Dominguez and Anderson were taking turns to kind of fill in that right channel. He went down the channel, he did everything right, took Bassi with him, left Bassi on the floor, cut back onto his left foot, and then got the shot all wrong, proving why he never does shoot with his left foot. Bassi himself had what was pretty much a free header from a free kick, which was saved by Sells in the middle of the goal. The defender, Will Fearley, should have done better with the header. I suspect that if it had gone in, then VAR would have intervened to give the offside. Well, not for the first time, and or the last time in this match. And then There was also a couple of efforts by Forest. There's a tame shot from a free kick by Gibbs White and Dominguez, a left footer from the edge of the box, both of which were comfortable saves by Leno. The free kick felt like a real missed opportunity, didn't it? Because like having been teed up, Morgan made his way, made it sort of got it past the wall, but there's absolutely no power on it, was there?
No, I feel like before, like the start of the season and last season, we've been pretty poor at free kicks, and then since like the new year, we've actually got quite a few free kicks on target and over the wall and forcing the keeper into a save. And actually, I feel like when we get free kicks now, I get a little bit of hope. So yeah, the it kind of set up nicely for him, but I don't think he quite put the right pace or power behind it.
Um, would if you had to kind of put a marker on it, would you have said that either team was better in the first half?
I think it was pretty evenly matched first half. I think we got in better areas than Fulham, and we had a few decent chances. They only had that one from Bassi, like you said, but I think overall it was a pretty evenly matched half. Yeah.
Yeah, and it has to be said, even though we've only talked about it for 2 or 3 minutes, that pretty much sums up the first half, and it ended 0-0.
The 1865 match report.
So halftime did see some substitutions, Katie. So we saw Hudson-Odoi and Nico Dominguez being removed and two wingers coming on. So Hutchinson came on the right and Doy on the left. What was your gut feeling when you saw those subs were being made?
I thought maybe we would see some subs because we were going in level and it's a game that we needed to get something from. And like I said, Dominguez, more of a defensive minded player. So I thought we would see an attacking change there. Wasn't really sure about Hudson-Odoi, but I'm not really sure in the first half he looked like he was hobbling a bit. So I don't know if it was injury or tactics, but I think um putting on Ndoye and Hutchinson really impacted that second half, and we looked a lot better in that second half.
Yeah, we went to more of a conventional shape. I mean, 4-2-3-1 is, I suppose, the standard template formation these days. And Forest did look more comfortable for it. So Sangare and Anderson holding the midfield in a more traditional way. Gibbs White playing as more of a 10. Hutchinson and Ndoye on the wings. And it was very nearly an instant impact, wasn't there? Because Ndoye managed to get through that left channel and he was absolutely bundled over by Bassi. And it's worth pointing out that the referee did point to the spot. The referee was Sam Barrett today. He pointed to the spot, but it was very, very quickly apparent that the flag had gone up. So as soon as you thought it's a penalty, straight away, no, it's not. Also worth pointing out that, to the when you look at the replay with the stripes on the pitch, it was yeah, you could tell it was offside. And Doy just went that. I don't know if it's Ndoye went too early or the ball was delayed a fraction too late, but either way, yeah. But it felt positive though, didn't it? That was something that we hadn't done in all of the first half.
Yeah, I think Ndoye offers something different, and people have say what they want to say about Ndoye, but I think he offers that pace down the wing which we'd been missing, and obviously, like you said, it was like a minute after the second half had kicked off, and I think that really sparked a little bit of our game and a bit of confidence for us. But I also think that sparked something in Ndoye as well because I
Yeah.
think people criticise him, but I actually think when he came on, he did make quite a bit of an impact.
Yeah, and I would characterize it, I mean, without getting too much into kind of post-match analysis, I'd characterize it as the two wingers when they came on. I suspect they were just told by Pereira, go out and express yourselves, do the things that you think you're good at. And they both did, and they both looked happier for it, and they both looked more productive for it. I know we didn't score a goal, but I can't imagine that would have been the sort of the pep talk they'd have been given under the last manager.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think, like I said, they came on and they did like what they were good at, and they were allowed to play with freedom. And we know what Hutchinson can offer, when he's one on one, and I think he put some good balls in, and he won us like 3 fouls on the edge of the box, from getting in good positions, and Ndoye also offered something. And I also think when they both came on, they also did the defensive side well, because yes, we needed a goal to win the game, but if you can't win, don't lose. And I think they also helped the fullbacks defend.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, as regular listeners will know, one of my criticisms of Forest under the Dyche era was that there were too many matches where if we didn't win them, we lost them. We didn't get enough of those kind of dirty draws, and so it was yeah, it was really important that those wingers were able to contribute to that, and crucially as well, for the first time, both of the fullbacks had stuff to think about. Tete and Robinson in Fulham's fullback positions, they didn't have enough to do in the first half, so they found themselves on the back foot, and it worked in both an attacking and a defensive sense. So, speaking of fullbacks, I suppose the big chance, the one that's going to go on match of the day, is a through ball by Murillo, and Ola Aina was making a run diagonally from the right back position. It's not quite the same as that goal that Leeds scored against us, but that was a deep ball by a left footer from just inside the centre circle and straight down the middle, and a right back who kind of advanced diagonally. Ola kind of took one touch to kind of try and bring the ball under control. He didn't quite manage it, but he was in a position whereby he was able to put his left foot through it. And it's all very well saying when you're in relegation trouble, oh, if that had gone 2 inches the other way, then it would have been a goal and all that. But it's hard not to think that that was unlucky because he hit it really well. It thumped off the bar. When you are doing well, those chances go in, and when you're in relegation trouble, they bounce away.
Yeah, that's always the case. Kind of just looked up, and we know what Murillo's capable of with his line breaking passes. And I kind of just looked up, and I was like, is that Ola? I didn't expect him to be in that position. And then when he took on the shot, we all thought it was going miles over. But the way he hit it, and the way he hit it was just, I don't think he'll hit a ball sweeter. And yeah, it was just frustrating,
It's
that
the best
one.
he's hit a ball since that Ribena goal a couple of years ago, isn't it? Feels like ages ago now. And I think, yeah, it's worth pointing out as well that generally Ola was a much better than he has been defensively as much as anything else. Ultimately, he is first and foremost a defender. Whether this is because he was playing against one of his former clubs, I don't know. But certainly, he had that habit of being just a second too slow and sometimes letting the ball bounce in the area. Think about the disallowed McAllister goal for Liverpool. Think about obviously what happened against Midtjylland just a few days ago. He's had the habit of kind of waiting a second too long, and we'll mention him again later in a defensive sense. So, flurry of subs just after the hour, and all of a sudden, for the first time, really, all afternoon, it looked like there might be a game of football in danger of breaking out. And the first action, literally, as soon as the subs were made. So, we should point out that Fulham made a triple change, and that was Oscar Bob going off, Josh King going off, another contender for the George Edwards Lookalike Award, and Raul Jimenez, and they were replaced by Chukwueze, Sasa Lukic, and Rodrigo Muniz. And the other change that Forest made was bringing on Taiwo Awoniyi for Igor Jesus. And I say we'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later on. But as soon as those changes were made, the first action was that Nico Williams played a through ball. Dan Ndoye got through, very similar to the action that led to the penalty that wasn't. Only this time, Ndoye broke away from his defenders. He was direct. He ran towards the goal, got himself on a one-on-one, and finished it very nicely. And I mean, relief, jubilation, all of those emotions. Did you think we were in the lead?
Yeah, I did. I struggled to see where there was an offside, and yeah, like you said, the ball from Nico was a great ball, and Ndoye took the finish really well. And I've seen the offside back. He's offside by like his studs.
Yeah.
It's so frustrating,
It's the back
especially
of his heel, isn't it?
yeah, so frustrating, especially when we've been struggling for goals and we really a win would have really boosted the confidence and the morale today. So it's
Yeah.
just really frustrating to see goals be ruled out for that marginal offside.
Yeah, I mean, like, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think while it's great to have technology to do these things, and by the way, on the TV, although the goal was ruled out, VAR checked it, it wasn't as long as, for example, after that goal, Liverpool goal at City Ground. VAR checked it, it was ruled out. It was probably about 6, 7 minutes before we saw the still image on Sky Sports. I don't know why it took so long to come through, and then it was literally just, I would say, 2, 3 inches. And of course, I'm actually a believer that if it's visible and that's why it's given, then great. But if it's having to come down to, you know, is somebody's toenail, is someone's heel offside, is those that ridiculous one last week where someone's nose was offside, and that doesn't feel right. Doesn't feel in the spirit of the game. And I will also say that in that spirit, if Bassi had got his header in the first half, and it had just been like his shoulder had been offside on the semi-automated image, I'd have been fine. Okay, we want to reward the attacking play, don't we? Anyway, there's a whole other debate to be had there, and Arsene Wenger's got plenty to say about it. But the goal was ruled out. Again, thinking about the atmosphere in the ground, was that a positive moment in terms of it was ruled out? But hey, we've remembered where the net is.
Yeah, I think the ground was obviously like it erupted in that moment. It was a great moment. And then obviously when it gets disallowed, everyone's just a bit frustrated. But the atmosphere, it was pretty good today. It's been not the best recently, but I think people did really get behind the team today, and I think that the goal kind of just boosted the confidence a bit more, and everyone was a bit more like we really can go on and win this game.
Yeah, and Taiwo coming on did make a big difference, didn't it? Because certainly he, like you say, Jesus has been dropping deeper and deeper and deeper, and I think that's a combination of, firstly, he looks knackered, and secondly, his confidence is going, and therefore, to try and get touches, he's doing that thing that forwards sometimes do, try and go deeper. Means we haven't had a presence in the box. Now, my take on this is that, is Taiwo as good as Chris Wood? No. But Chris Wood's not available. Is Taiwo somebody who knows how to position himself and create danger in the box? Yes, he is. And the fact that, even though his technique is not always amazing, the fact that he has scored goals that have bounced off his knee or bounced off his shin or hit his chest is a sign that he knows how to be in the right place at the right time. And the other thing that he did do today was his sheer physical presence meant that Anderson and Bassi, as the centre backs, went from having a being relatively controlled in their position to all of a sudden having quite a lot to worry about, because it took both of them to try and handle a one, didn't it?
Yeah, I never thought we would get to the point where we were relying on Taiwo to help us, but I think when he came on, he would, like you said, he was something different for the Fulham defenders to think about. He was up there being a bit of a bully to them, which they hadn't really experienced all game with Jesus. He was making runs even when he knew he wasn't going to get the ball. He was still sprinting, and that's some of the work rate that I love to see. So yeah, I think Taiwo does offer something different to Jesus, and I think maybe he's something we need to look at going forward, because he does occupy defenders a lot, and we've been putting balls into the box and no one's really been getting on them. But like I said, Taiwo can be in the right place at the right time and it just hits him and goes in. So I think we need to be looking at him. But I also think today when we was in the dying minutes, and Sells was just pumping it up to him. He was kind of just up there alone, and he was just surrounded by all the Fulham players, and
Yeah.
people, his teammates weren't really getting up there to help him. So it was kind of just bouncing off him, and then Fulham would recycle and come back at him. So I think if we do play Taiwo, he needs more support up there than he was getting today.
Yeah, and I think it's fair to point out that obviously the fear of losing plays a part there. I mean, so the other subs, let's just kind of clear this up. So Gibbs White came off on 74 minutes and Ryan Yates came on. And clearly that's partly to do with saving legs. Um, and it's also to do with, again, I suspect there's an element there of making sure that we're shored up, bearing in mind that Fulham had brought on Lukic before the match finished. They brought on Kearney, so they were thinking about ways to try and prompt through the middle of the park. And Lukic coming on meant that Iwobi was prompting a little bit more, things like that. So I don't think it's necessarily the substitution that most Forest fans would have chosen to make, bringing on Yates for Gibbs White. But certainly, it's important that, as probably our most important player, or one of our most important players, Gibbs White, is rested. And yeah, and that fear of losing, not getting caught out, as we have done so many times this season, probably played a part there. But having said that, Taiwo did make two chances for himself by hustling and bustling against his defenders. The first time he got through and in the right hand channel, a little bit. Yeah, it is a tame shot wide. He had another run which was down the right channel, which is a little bit reminiscent of his goal at Brentford. And he had a bit of a wrestling match with Bassi, and the ref adjudicated in the defender's favour. And then in stoppage time, he again managed to get himself in a shooting position, having kind of pushed his way through defence, and Kenny Tete made a really important block, and it went out for a corner. It's only fair to also point out that Rodrigo Muniz, Ricardo Muniz used to be the Notts County manager in the noughties, I think. Rodrigo Muniz did have a decent effort on target in stoppage time, but having criticised Ola Aina's defensive actions recently, it's fair to point out, right place, right time. It would have been easy to kind of not be in the way of it, but he stood firm and headed it over when it was definitely going into the goal. So credits to you, Ola. So essentially, it meant that 0-0 was the final score. Did you think it was fair, or did you think Forest had shaded it?
I think Forest slightly took the edge. I think the only real Fulham chance was that Bassi one in the first half, and like you said, that Muniz one. But Ola made the block. I think we had the better chances to win the game, and I think we really tried to go for it in that second half, and it was just kind of unfortunate that we didn't win. So yeah.
Okay, in just a minute, we'll get a view from a Fulham fan, and we shall have a little bit of a post-match debate.
The 1865 match report.
I think from our perspective, it's another frustrating game, pretty drab at points. We're obviously in a very congested mid-table, and we seem to have hit that sort of March-April stumbling block yet again. Well, the season seems to be petering out. I think a lot of the fans feel like Silva's almost mentally checked out. I don't think today's performance is going to do anything to quieten those claims. I think we've just hit that little bit of a period where European qualifications and outside chance, we're not going to go down. We're just left with a bunch of players who are just playing games for the sake of it, really. It sometimes feels like a pretty drab watch. Can't think of too many positives off the bat. I thought Anthony Robinson looked like he was taking steps to getting back to his best form, which we all know is levels above some of the displays that he's been putting in this season. So that was pleasing. I think the clean sheet is always a positive, especially away from home. City ground's a tough place to go, and we haven't done too well over there in recent years. But I don't know. I think that I don't know. I find also the VAR interventions again seems to be taking away from the game. Obviously, it's so finely balanced, and then when we do get those sort of exciting moments, the talking points, they're just rubbed out. I'm sure you'll be feeling similarly aggrieved towards VAR this season, as most fans are across the country. And yet there doesn't really seem to be a solution from anyone higher up just yet. It smacks a bit of desperation that we're still talking about VAR for what is now, I don't know if that's the 30th game of the season. It'll be the 30th time we've spoken about VAR in the podcasts. But hey, it is what it is. So yeah, all in all, a little bit frustrating. Another point on the board. I'm glad we didn't lose. I'm glad we've kept a clean sheet. Would like to score a goal. That's obviously now 2 weeks without a goal. But Burnley at home next week represents a good chance to hopefully get 3 points on the board. I think we need it for the morale around the club, which seems to be hitting a little bit of a stumbling block at the moment, a little bit of a low point, in spite of there not being too much to be overly negative about. But yeah, like I said, I do think there is a growing proportion of the fan base just now can't wait for the season to be over. As sad as that is, I'm not necessarily amongst those. I think Silva's been great for us, and I think he can still be great for us in the future. But it is difficult to not empathise with some of the suggestions he's taken us as far as he can. I think over the last few years the squad has improved in terms of the playing personnel, and yet the finishes haven't really. Although, going back 6-7 years, we were obviously one of those sort of yo-yo clubs in the same sort of brackets as, your Norwiches and your West Broms. So I don't think that we can really complain too much with what's going on. It is what it is. Next week represents a new chance. Best of luck for the rest of the season.
So big thanks to Dylan there from Fulham Focus, talking to us from a tunnel somewhere under West London by the sounds of it. Interesting, a couple of things that I thought about there, Katie. Firstly, Dylan saying that's 2 matches without a goal, and I'm going, lucky you. The other thing, of course, is that he mentioned VAR, and we've talked about the VAR controversies today. Do you want to have a word on the ref? Because at full time on the TV, you could hear boos, and in our group chat, people were saying, well, those boos were kind of mainly directed at the officials. So anything to add on that?
I think the main thing for me with the ref today was the foul, like the silly fouls he was falling for. Like the Fulham players would just hold their face when no one had gone near them, and they were just falling over without any contact. And I feel like the Premier League need to start doing something about it. And I think it's hard to find where the point where there is contact and they are actually injured, and the point where they're just faking it. But I do think something needs to be done about that. But I think with the offsides, yes, it's annoying and it's frustrating, but for me, offside is offside.
Yeah. There's one you mentioned those kinds of times where players would go down very easily. There's one in particular with Kenny Tete, where he went down holding his face, and like I can't even remember which Forest player it was. It might
I think it was
uh,
Gibbs, wasn't it?
yeah, I think it was. And his arms went nowhere near Tete's face, and he went down as if like he'd been poked in the eye, and he obviously hadn't. And you can understand refs have to make decisions in real time, but the bloke who I usually sit next to at the City Ground, we've had this conversation many times. Like, what's the point in linesman? Because there's linesman's right there. What's the point in giving him a flag and actually? Because what 9 times out of 10, the linesman, something happens in front of him. He looks at the ref, and then when the ref gives a decision, then he puts his flag up. So yeah, that's really, really frustrating. I will, in the interests of balance, point out that our big Serbian defender did have an arm in the face of Raul Jimenez in the first half, and the ref wasn't interested. VAR wasn't interested. Was it a red card offence? No. Was it a bit naughty of Milenkovic? Yeah, it kind of was.
Oh, I didn't see that from my place in the ground, so I'll have to see if there's a way that I can see that back.
Yeah, in real time, it didn't look like much, but actually, yeah, having had the benefit of replay, I'm thinking, yeah, he might have got away with that a little bit. Um, Vitor Pereira said that the spirit was to win the game. He emphasised unity and to quote, and he was stated the obvious, said, but we're missing the goal. He also talked about emotional balance and about, football's an emotional game. So it's important for him to let the players that they're doing the right things and that they need to keep the same mentality. So he's saying that overall, in terms of the performance and in terms of the application, if we keep doing that, then hopefully something better will come. And to quote, we have quality, we have character, we have spirit. Now, just to kind of finish off, firstly, Spurs, the good news, this is to quote Baz in our group chat. So the good news is that Igor Tudor might still be in charge next week. The bad news is that Spurs didn't look completely incompetent today. I have to say, Liverpool let themselves down, but Spurs getting a late equaliser away from home is the kind of thing which, if you're a team that's been in the doldrums, that can give you a bit of a put a bit of pep in your step. So, are you worried about that?
I'm not really worried about Tottenham. I'm mainly worried about West Ham because, as we know firsthand, a Nuno side towards the end of the season, he really starts to pick them up, and West Ham have been the best out of the uh, relegation teams recently. So I'm mainly worried about them. But I think for us to get a point, even though we're out the relegation zone on goal difference, I think just being out of the relegation zone gives you like it's better for the mentality and it's better for the confidence. So I think going into that Tottenham game next week, which is absolutely huge, and we need to be coming away from there with all 3 points. Um, I think that us being out of the relegation zone is gonna help our mentality moving forward.
Okay. I mean, yeah. So I'm also going to add in there that it's very easy to get revisionist. Now, I tend not to look at social media too much after matches, whether it's a win, loss, or a draw, because let's be honest, the things that come up in the algorithm are the more extreme ends of the spectrum. But I think it's fair to say that if for example, Ndoye's heel hadn't been offside as he was turning to run through on goal, if Ola's shot had been 4 inches further down, then the mood would be really really positive, and everyone going, that was a fine battling victory. So to go back to where we started, I guess you talked about it as being probably a bit of a missed opportunity. But in terms of mood, do you think that the players and the fan base should be taking something good out of today?
Yeah, I think any time that you get a positive result, even if it's a draw, that's something to build on. And it's another clean sheet. We've been defensively solid this year. It's just scoring goals that have let us down. So I think it's definitely a point to build on, and it's something that can give us confidence going into that really important game next week.
Okay, and let's not forget, there's a match in Denmark coming up as well. Pereira did hint that maybe there'll be some. Maybe that's not the highest priority anymore. So yeah, we'll wait and see. So thank you very much to you, Katie. Thank you to Dylan from Fulham Focus, and thank you for watching or listening to this particular podcast. We will be back with a visit to Yates's Espresso Bar in midweek before we have a report from Denmark, and then a report from, I was going to say White Hart Lane, it's not called that, it's the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. So in the meantime, keep following, keep liking, keep supporting us, keep supporting Forest. Come on, you Reds.
You've been listening to 1865, the Nottingham Forest podcast. Follow us on X, Insta, TikTok, Threads and Blue Sky, and listen via Apple, Spotify and YouTube. All the links are available at 1865.football.